God, you're doing this whole animal thing. Oh, that's fantastic.
I think everybody should live in a way that does the least amount of harm to the world. And I think...
Do you think veganism is in line with that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely in line with that.
Oh, vegan!
Are you vegan?
I'm vegan.
Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome.
Are you an activist?
I don't know if I'm an activist. I'm just vegan.
Well, the next step is to become an activist. That's the way that you start undoing the damage you've done before you went vegan. You know, because before you were vegan, you were part of the oppressors, right?
Yes.
But you know, we can't undo what we've done, but we can strive.
Forward.
Yeah, we can strive to make other people make that connection.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Way to go.
Cool.
High five.
Nice. I love it. Oh, good. Oh my God, you're doing this whole animal thing. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so there's footage from like animal testing and all the other industries and stuff.
Totally.
Do you know what this footage is from?
No.
It's from Dominion. That's a documentary released in 2018 out of Australia.
Okay.
And it just shows all standard practices in their farm. So
Oh yeah, totally.
it's for people who say like, you know, they just pick the worst abuses and stuff like that and then just show a highlight reel.
Normal.
Yeah,
Every
this
day.
is just like...
This is what happens all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
People just can't seem to accept that their food was capable of having like a meaningful life experience, you know, capable of love, like, you know, it's, they're just in these factories. It's like,
No,
it's
it's awful. Awful.
glad to hear that.
Pigs, oh my God, everything. Totally. Absolutely. Anyway, cheers.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for stopping. Have a good one. Hey, sir. Have you seen any footage like that before? So we're promoting veganism.
I'm not following.
Sorry?
I'm not able to understand you.
Oh. What language do you speak?
Hey, English speak but slowly.
Okay. So we're telling people don't hurt animals.
Okay, we should be vegetarian.
No. Pure vegetarian.
We are
vegan.
Yeah, we are vegetarian. We don't eat meat.
You don't eat meat, no eggs, no milk, no honey.
Milk we take.
But why?
Milk to artificial.
But isn't that cruelty? Because it's the cow. She makes it for her mom, her baby. Hey, how's it going?
What's up?
Have you seen any footage like that before?
Factory farms?
Yeah, so it's not only showing factory farms, but we're showing footage from a documentary called Dominion, released in 2018, which just shows Australian standard practices in medical testing, like stuff for sport, and then like factory farms for meat, eggs, and dairy. So how do you guys feel when you see footage like this? Like, yeah.
I've seen a lot of it before, and it's more of a frustrated feeling that this type of stuff is so deeply ingrained in our society.
Yeah, kind of frustrated with limitations of not being able to have the power to stop it.
Or just that, yeah, people think that any sort of change is impossible because there's so much already.
So much...
it's just so, like...
So many abuses happening.
A dozen eggs cost like $4. Like if those dozen eggs were sourced in a way that is ethical, it would be a lot more. But like we're already relying on so many of these practices as a society, it's frustrating.
What do you think about the idea of just not using animals, like just not commodifying them and not viewing them as a means to an end, and just respecting them as like sovereign beings with purposes that are just their own, not ours to determine, and just leaving them alone for the most part, not breeding them into existence?
I haven't thought about that before.
So that's veganism, essentially. It's just rejecting the commodity status of animals. So we're placing a higher value on their wants and needs than we would place on whatever commodities we can get from, you know, their mutilation or their killing, basically. Right. And we're basically substituting like the products that we would derive or seek to derive from their exploitation with vegan alternatives, hopefully.
Right.
So that's what like a vegan promotes, the development of plant alternatives to things that require like an innocent, defenseless, vulnerable being to suffer at our hands, basically.
Right.
So what do you think? Like, do you think that a vegan lifestyle where you're seeking to reduce the harm that you're inflicting on other animals is in line with your way of living that you wish to adopt?
I think everybody should live in a way that does the least amount of harm to the world. And I think...
Do you think veganism is in line with that?
I think it's definitely in line with that. I lived with a vegan for a few years. Or not a few years, a year. And learned a lot from her. And I made up in my mind that I would slowly make the transition after I finished my sports career, because animal products are the only way that I can like gain weight. So I do my best. Yeah, just through my experience, it's always been milk. So I do my best to like at least know what impact I'm making through my purchases.
How do you feel about knowing though that like for every drop of milk you consume, that a mother cow's baby didn't get to consume that milk? Like, how do you feel justified in interjecting yourself into that relationship between a mother and her child? I mean, if you haven't thought about it, that's fair.
I haven't thought about it.
Fair enough. So yeah, these are the questions that like, you know, it's important to ask ourselves. And you can be a healthy vegan athlete. It really comes down to calories, like calories in, calories out. I mean, my weight's fluctuated, like, you know, I've been 25 pounds in either direction just based on how much I exercise and how much I eat, you know. Really what we're trying to convince people of is that if they are strongly motivated enough in terms of the why, as in like why it's wrong to commodify an animal, like to purpose them in some directed fashion, like that we direct them to be, like, oh, these are the pigs that are going to be you know, sausage and ham and bacon. These are the cows who are going to be repeatedly impregnated and milked until they give out and then become cheap hamburger meat. Right. These are the dogs who we're going to subject to fighting and bet on them. You know, in any of these cases, since it's all an unnecessary use, it is abusive. Do you see that perspective?
Yeah, I can see that perspective for sure.
Cool. And I mean, like, you know, if you were these animals, not to say that you guys have been defensive at all, you guys have been really open-minded, which I really appreciate, but a lot of people will complain that vegans are too forceful in pushing our like ideology. But the thing is that like killing an animal because you like the way they taste, I can't really think of a more forceful application of an ideology, you know, when it comes to them as the victims of that oppression.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can think of any other class of victims who are more victimized, like when it comes to, when it comes to how long this oppression has been going on, how brutal it's been happening. I mean, in one weekend, we kill more animals or in 1 week rather, than humans have ever existed, like in human history. And that's just to supply like our greed, right? Basically. What do you think? You've been quiet.
She's shy.
I don't know. I've never really considered veganism before.
The only thing is, I don't know how many people that are not as privileged as I am or other people are can like afford to go meatless.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Just because when I've been looking around, it's more expensive than the...
Some things can be. I mean, the cheapest foods are always the whole plant foods, you know, like the bananas, the beans, the pasta, potatoes, the rice. But of course, if you look at specialty products, like, you know, Beyond Burger or something, it might be a little bit more expensive than like your, you know...
That's not necessary.
It's not necessary. I mean, and it's really, ideally, a whole food plant-based diet is more the ideal. You just got to make sure that you eat enough. But the other thing that I want to mention is that subsidies that we pay through our tax contributions actually go and pay for this. So it's a huge FU in the face of vegans, like honestly our whole tax system, because we're subsidizing like the Department of Agriculture, you know, all vegans who like pay their taxes, and we're opposed to it on a moral, you know, on moral grounds. it violates our position against animal abuse to use an animal for like, you know, $3.99 a pound, $4.99, like to turn them into a product basically.
When did you become a vegan?
So I became vegan almost 10 years ago, and that was actually kind of a coincidence where I had stopped eating animals for about 2 years, and then I just looked into the dairy or the egg industry rather, because someone said that that wasn't vegetarian to consume eggs. Because I guess in some places, some parts of the world, namely maybe East India, it's considered non-vegetarian to consume eggs. That got me like looking into it. That was honestly the spark, and then I just made the decision shortly thereafter that like it wasn't something that I felt that I could, in good conscience, contribute to anymore. I was just like, you know, I don't think that I can deserve mercy, honestly, if I'm like being cruel to others. And it certainly fit the criteria of cruelty to subject other beings to death for me to enjoy like some KFC or like a Sonic burger or something like that. You know, I was like, that's like, if that's not entitlement and selfishness, I don't know what is, you know? But like, I wasn't always in a frame of consciousness where it was something that would even occur to me to consider like the lives and misery of like lesser beings, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a barrier to more mainstream stuff. I don't think many people consider like the chicks that get ground up as live equal to their own.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there is a way where someone can very conscientiously still like buy the products from like animals' bodies without like being complicit in the abuse of those animals or future animals?
I don't know. To me, it's hard to say. Like, if somebody could like, if they wanted to eat meat, I feel the best way to do that would probably just be like hunting. Because if I were an animal, I would rather live until 50 as a normal life and then get, I don't know, shot to death by some god and then die in 3 seconds rather than grow up in some factory farm. So that's probably the most humane way to get meat and animal products.
So would you say that dairy then is kind of the most unethical because you're literally just kind of like farming the reproductive systems of animals, like, you know, for maybe 7 years? Whereas like in the meat industry, for example, for like an Angus cow, they might be 6-7 months old when they're killed. And they're not subjected to repeatedly like having their babies taken away and repeatedly being forcibly impregnated. So would you make kind of a hierarchy like that? Like, you know, maybe like dairy is the worst, or maybe like wool, I don't know, because like they'll raise sheep to produce more wool and then slaughter them.
I don't know the process for a lot of the stuff that I consider. For me, it's...
Are you an adult out of curiosity?
Am I an adult? Yes.
Okay, cool. So you can watch, and you are also? Yeah, so you guys can watch this Dominion, you know, I don't know if it even has a rating technically, but like, you know, it's pretty brutal. Yeah. And I mean, maybe for you it's just a matter of exposing yourself more to the realities of like what's kind of behind the barcode and the products, and knowing kind of that when you purchase these things that you're complicit, that you're contributing to those things continuing. And I'm not in any way implying that it's possible to live a life where we're not complicit in harm. Like, you know, things that we buy could have been produced in like sweatshops or something like that, you know. But at the very least, we know that when we buy eggs, for example, that like that did require a chick to be commodified, like just to be viewed as only like as valuable as what their body could produce and then be killed. So that's kind of the thing that where I kind of draw the line. I'm like, you know, I might be standing on a sidewalk where some glue was used, you know, from horses' hooves, like gelatin or something from a factory farm byproduct, but I can at least like not be directly one of the people who's voting with their money for this thing to continue, you know.
And then why did you choose to contribute all this time and effort to this cause as opposed to a bunch of other stuff that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. there are people who do advocate for lots of different causes,
Yeah.
human and non-human. The reason that veganism strikes a chord with me in particular is because I believe that speciesism is actually the first form of discrimination that we're taught. Like the idea that some animals are deserving and worthy of love and protection, and that others' feelings don't matter, essentially, that they're put here for us to use. Because essentially, like, we're teaching children that it's okay to hurt people that you love, basically, in some way. Like, to hurt others, like, you know, you love others, but then, like, some of their feelings, like, we can just treat with callous indifference as though they don't matter.
Like you love a dog but eat a pig.
Right, exactly. Most people struggle to come up with a morally relevant difference between like a dog and a pig that justifies the enslavement, the abuse, the torture of one, but makes it, you know, something that we should deem illegal selectively in the case of another, like with the dog, for example. I don't know if you guys are aware, Donald Trump actually passed the dog and it's like called like the Dog and Cat Meat Trade Act or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Before then, I think it was not federally illegal to like trade dog and cat meat. I think it might still be legal to, if you like don't trade the meat of a dog and cat and just consume it for personal use.
I know it's illegal in some states to butcher it, so it's legal in others.
Yeah, it might be a state to state thing.
Yeah, I just saw that recently.
Cool, but at any rate, I hope you guys will look more into you know, this issue. A lot of people kind of gloss over and say like we have other more important things to worry about in the world. Like, let's get our human issues solved first before we move on to the non-human animals. But what I've found in my time on this earth is that when the bar is raised, like genuinely raised from below, everybody goes up with it. It just requires humility to see ourselves as animals and to basically not think of them as having any less sacred of a purpose on the earth than we do. And in fact, if we think about the effects that we perpetrate on the planet, we're the ones as a species who are dominating others, like at, you know, industrial levels, imposing hierarchies, you know, exploiting the planet, basically, you know, ravaging all the resources of the planet. We're like the only species who actually would benefit the world, I think, if we didn't exist. Not to say that, you know, humanity is all bad, but I think we need to also approach life with some humility, and like, you know, when we look into their eyes, we recognize that there's a being inside of there, and you know, we wouldn't want to be in their situation. So that's basically the bottom line. You know, if we wouldn't want that to be done to us, if we would want to be freed from like a forced, you know, commodification situation, the very least we can do is not contribute to that happening to others. Now, if we become an activist and start helping others, also make that connection in whatever level. It doesn't necessarily mean going to a demo. It could just mean being like, hey, Mom, you know, have you ever thought about why we don't drink dog's milk or something? You know, something that simple. Then you start being a catalyst for change. Like real, like probably the biggest revolution since like the herding mentality spread throughout humanity, where we started herding other animals, is really what that could lead to. You know, so I appreciate you guys stopping. I would really recommend Dominion if you go to watchdominion.com.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for stopping. Have a great day.